Good morning. I don't know if anybody can hear me yet. I'm trying to. That's not what I'm trying to get to. There we go. I'm trying to pull up the stream. There we go. All right. All right. Can we hear me? Okay. I hear audio. So I've got my phone over here so I can see chat. I'll try to answer questions as they come up, but I picked an early morning time so that I could just kind of talk. So kids are just starting to wake up, but it should be relatively quiet. So some of you know that I have 4 kids. 3 boys, 1 girl. Well, that wasn't what I planned. That wasn't what I planned either. I have 3 boys, 1 girl, and 2 of my boys, my 7-year-old and my 9-year-old, have both been diagnosed with autism. And a little history of our little family dynamic. Like even before they were diagnosed, excuse my cracking voice, I'm not going through puberty again. I do have a little bit of a sore throat and some sinus issues because it is cottonwood season and I don't know anyone that's not allergic to cottonwood. So, but anyway, like when I was initially when my 9-year-old was initially diagnosed, I was, how do I put this? I was devastated, but not for the diagnosis itself. Like I knew there was something not typical about him. Like he wasn't hitting the same milestones as my oldest did, and my oldest didn't hit all the milestones on time either. And milestones aren't really like they aren't how do I put this? They're more of like a guidepost than anything else. So when we were diagnosed, at first I was like, okay, now we have like when my 9-year-old was diagnosed, I was like, okay, now we have something that says, okay, we need certain supports within the school system and within social services. What I didn't expect is how people around me would react. People who literally went from being weekend babysitters to I don't know how to handle kids with autism. It's like, but like you knew how to handle him a week ago. So I don't understand the stance that all of a sudden you can't deal. So um it was an adjustment in my little circle of friends. It was really hard to understand because he wasn't any different. Like, he was the same kid pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis, if you know what I mean. Like, it was just that once we had the diagnosis, we had, you know, not so much a reason for why he did things, but a reason why certain things affected him greater than, say, myself or his dad. And even his dad went through like this existential, like, you know, what is wrong with me? What did I do to my child? Did I give this to him? And it's just like, autism isn't this thing to be devastated about. It literally is a neurodiversity. It's a different way of your brain being. And it's like, it's something that I've said to a few friends who find out that their kid is autistic. Your child isn't being autistic at you. They're not. It's not like an insult to you. It's nothing to feel injured about. It's literally like your child having like different, you know, brain not mechanisms, but like the way their brain responds to the world. And in some ways that's good, in some ways it's bad. Not every person with autism is the same. Like, not every person with autism is specifically like analytical or has an engineering brain. Like, that will often be a joke that, you know, oh, if you're in a room full of engineers, you're in a room full of autistics. And it's not really accurate, and it's actually kind of insulting to, I mean, it's a generalization that doesn't need to be made. So I'm going to try not to cough through this whole thing. I know that's annoying. So hi Abigail, we're going to stand next to you and fish. So that became an adjustment. The loss of our little community of people who went from handling him well to, oh no, I don't know what to do, in a weirdly short amount of time. So, a couple years later, my now 7-year-old was diagnosed. And, you know, again, it was not a thing to be devastated about. It was, okay, now we have tools. Now we have, you know, reasons for behavior. Now we have, you know, ways to get certain help in school, in like social services and things like that. Good morning, Ashley. And they were both diagnosed pre-kindergarten, but by the school system. So that helped immensely. So I don't want that. I'll keep that. So it helped a lot. And what I've noticed is, so as of right now, the boys have been in 2 different school districts. And I notice a different way of dealing with kids in like both different school districts. Now, the first school district, for context, the first school district that we were in is in the poorest district in the county. I'm being choked. The poorest district in the county. And they had a very robust special ed program. It was like they had special rooms and special areas and dedicated classrooms for autistic kids and things like that. And like I was constantly in contact via text with teachers. Whereas in this new school, which is literally one of the richest, wealthiest in the county, arguably in the state. One second. Hey, Ash. Shh. Do you want to turn on the TV? Okay. It's arguably one of the wealthiest in the state. I'm not in constant contact. There's a specific app that we have to use. I'm not allowed to email. I'm not allowed to directly call the classroom. And it is a little frustrating. Please put that back. Ashley. Ashley, please put that back.
What is this?
It's a mirror. It looks like a what? It looks like a princess.
You look like a princess.
Oh, thank you. Okay, can you turn the volume down on the TV, please? Yes. If you take your fingers all the way to the top. Okay, if you take your fingers all the way to the top, can you feel the top button? Don't push it. You feel the top button? Yes or no? Okay, go down one and go down another one. If you've got the top one, and then this is a volume up and then volume down. Yes. Go to the volume down. Push the volume down. Good job, Ashley. That was excellent listening. Anyway, as I close down my stream, it's still loud. Ashley, can you turn it down a little bit more? That's still really loud. So, um, I'm also hedging over in my mind what, um, like how deep I want to delve into the topic today, um, just simply because the kids are awake and I wasn't planning on them waking up yet. But I'll do as deep of a dive as I can without getting um, too dark. Um, so Neurotribes is a book by Steve Silberman. Full disclosure, I am not done with it. Not by a long shot. I am, however, absolutely enthralled. It's hard to describe because... Oh, hi, honey. It's like the person that does the voice, or that does... I'm listening to the audiobook, and I'm literally halfway through. And the voice of the person that's reading it is just so friendly. You know what I mean? And it's a good thing. And it's not really disarming. It's friendly with a purpose. Like, it's friendly because it's like getting a lecture in college from like this just warm and welcoming child education professor. So so yeah, like it's a welcome, friendly voice. So if you have time to spare, I would recommend the audiobook. If you have an analytical mind, like my friend Lola over on Eric's Discord. I'm trying to combine the two words, and that's not really a thing. She has an amazingly analytical mind and explains scientific information in amazingly easy to digest tidbits. I am not Lola. I do not have that talent, and I am not even going to attempt. But anyway, back to the roller coaster of the story. So I started listening to it, and he starts telling the story of a woman who whose son was diagnosed autistic, and she felt the same way I did at first. There was that devastation, but at the same time, it wasn't devastation because of the autism. It was devastation because of the lack of social support in our current society. And like that is how like she began her journey. And then upon joining like a group for moms, she was convinced otherwise, which is where like our paths diverged. I was like, wow, how can you be convinced to be devastated about something that's not devastating? But when you are navigating something that is new, um, in, you know, you're navigating new territory that's not um, very widely spoken about. Oh, hi. Can I have my arm? Have a seat. Go watch Unikitty. I can sort of see where some of the negativity would seep in. Like, I have the luxury of an extra decade of activism to have absorbed. Oh, okay, nope, have a seat, because her son was diagnosed in... Please stop. Her son, actually 2 extra decades, because her son was born in the 90s, and mine was born in 2010. No, thank you. So, but she started a blog about their quote-unquote journey, which is, again, something that I can't wrap my head around, because it's not really a journey. It's like where you are, and I don't know, it's... So anyway, in this group of people that she fell in with, they were all sort of convinced that the boogeyman of autism was vaccines. So, anti-vaxxing nonsense about autism, it is not a new phenomenon. So, excuse me. And then she talked about family members and their I want to say attitudes. It's less attitudes and more ignorance. But come on, don't be like this. Anyway, so it's less attitudes, more ignorance. But that's, like, we haven't really gotten that far. So anyway, so she's living in a time when it's pretty common to have people say, hey, you know, vaccines caused this. And not knowing any better, she accepted the quote-unquote studies done on, like, random websites as actual scientific studies. Along with the nonsense rhetoric of medical studies being backed by big pharma and who's paying for this and blah, 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 blah. It's like, scientific studies need to be paid for. The people working are doing a job. Their wages need to be respected. It's like the argument that people shouldn't get paid for their work because it's a scientific study is kind of ridiculous. It's like, nuts. Scientific studies aren't just done by students. Oh, why are you being choppy? Don't be choppy. So Um, come on, don't be choppy. So, um, where was my brain going with this? Um, sorry about that. Please don't freeze. Oh, this whole thing, buffering and freezing. Not cool. So anyway, I went through the entire spectrum of emotion from, oh yay, I'm losing my voice. This is fun. The entire spectrum from, her discovery to the devastation to becoming an anti-vaxxer and voice in the anti-vax movement and then to literally doing a 180 and going against the anti-vax movement. It was pretty eye-opening to see because it's this weird dichotomy. Like, once she decided that she was no longer an anti-vaxxer, the anti-vax community, like, didn't just leave her, they turned on her. They, like, and they're pretty vicious. So then the book moves on and goes into more of the history of autism and Asperger's syndrome, and the dispute on when it was named, who was the first to name it, and the traits that were seen, as well as the attitudes of the respective scientists that discovered. Ashley, can you take the bread away from your sister, please? Got a toddler sitting here with a loaf of bread, or a whole thing of bread. Not happening. So, but there's a dispute as to when it was discovered, who discovered it. But I will say that the attitudes